Hey everybody, it's me Vic. So today I'm going to be talking about Streamlabs. And Streamlabs has some really amazing features. I was testing out their TikTok live because mine was able to connect and I got permission to do so. So I was very thrilled about that. I can tell you that for those who are streaming on TikTok, the chat pops open in a different browser along with the stats. That's not something that's actually baked into OBS, so it's very much reminiscent of TikTok Live Studio. You won't be hearing the alerts. There's not really a widget to create. Stream Elements and Streamlabs don't really have an alert for TikTok that pops up here. The integration is that you're able to stream to TikTok, but you don't see the chat in the chat feature. So I wanted to talk about that real quick before we actually start diving into like Streamlabs. But for those who are initially setting up after you install, you can set everything up here. It's usually a walkthrough process. Really not going to go over too much on like setting up the outputs and the audio and the video because it's usually done. But we are going to pay attention to the video tab real quick here because in order to get the vertical, you have to check mark this, enable dual output, and then your vertical will show up for those who are wondering how to do so. I don't use Streamlabs. Again, I tested it out. It's not a bad thing to use, but personally, I use OBS for this reason alone. While I do like the integration of being able to live stream to TikTok, right? And they have like two sources that or two outputs that they let you stream to. And my main is Twitch, and then the next one is going to be TikTok on Streamlabs. I liked that. But to get more than two destinations, you basically have to sign up for multi-streaming, right? Multi-streaming is behind a paywall. Monthly, $27 US. Right now they have a sale annually. The sale is 40% off and annually at $180 something. I don't feel that you should pay for multi-streaming as a feature, but it's not just the multi-streaming that's included in Ultra. There is the overlays. So like you can go to their overlay shop and you can choose whatever you want at random. Instead of having to buy an overlay, you're paying for that service monthly. You can even use things from the App Store. But personally, I don't do that. I have my own overlay. I paid for my own overlay. I do multi-streaming free through another broadcasting software. And so I feel that those features shouldn't be behind a paywall. I know that they want to pay their developers somehow, and usually if it's an open source thing, donations, that's just my 2 cents on it. But I will say I do like the way that they integrated TikTok to go live. That way I didn't have to have a camera set up in 2 different softwares to go live at 2 different times. I would like to see that kind of integration in OBS or with the ATEM TV vertical plugin. That is what I use in OBS, but Streamlabs here, you set everything up here and you're pretty much good to go live, right? But you still have to set up your scenes. Another thing I want to bring light to is under advanced is audio. So I have a wavelength, right? So I route all my audio to systems so I can hear if something is going off in an application, what that is, whether it's alerts, whether it's a notification or a crash. Your little noises here and there that pop up that I'll hear through system, anything to this software. You can have it go to your headset, you can have it go to your speakers, whatever you prefer, right? And that's pretty much it when it comes to the settings here. Now you can be very, how do I put it? Specific about how you want your settings to be. If like you're recording or you're streaming. What I do want to mention about that though is I use profiles in OBS. This Streamlabs program only uses scene collections. Scene collections are going to be something, per scene you have a cluster of sources and, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 scenes in that particular scene collection, and then you create a new scene collection and you have 3 or 4 or, however many you're doing. Not to be confused with sources. But Streamlabs doesn't have profiles. So if I have different encoding needs based off of the content that I'm making, I don't get to do that here in Streamlabs. I can only use profiles in OBS. So just keep that in mind. If you have different video coding needs when it comes to the encoders or different formats. For example, I make ultra wide content. I would have to come here anytime I was recording and change the layout to, for example, ultra wide or whatever. I'm not going to do that. I've set that up in another software and I don't need to worry about that. I just hit a button on my Stream Deck and it takes me to what I need to do. But if you are going to be doing things in one base canvas and one set recording and you're not changing that, you can use Streamlabs for recording. Like, that's not going to be an issue. So just keep that in mind. This only does scene collections. It doesn't do profiles. All right, that being said, let's go ahead and go to our editor and we're going to actually show you how to set things up. Oh no, we're not doing a new scene. Now you can come here like I did and we can start fresh. Or if you go to settings and then you go to scene collections, you can create a scene collection if you want to. Or you can even import from an overlay file. Usually when you first set up, it'll ask if you want to import something from OBS, for example, or Twitch Studio. Twitch Studio is no longer. It is obsolete. They have abandoned it. It was great when it lasted. I liked some of those features, but I don't use it. So this is the next best thing, right? Aside from OBS, OBS gives you a lot more freedom, but there are different plugins. So we're going to create a scene collection. And I am going to actually go to manage and call this test so I don't get it confused with stream, because they both start with S and that was confusing me. All right, so that's set up, right? And now I'm going to rename this. Most people just want to go live and they just want like one thing to worry about, right? Unless they want overlays. We're not going to go into detail for overlays, but I am going to show you how to configure here and here. I am not going to put my camera on here because I am not camera ready, but I am going to show you how to set up some stuff. So first things first, we're going to look here at the mixer. It's going to tell you about your desktop audio and your mic aux. These are automatic in any time that you open up a new scene collection. We will remove these, but not immediately. The first thing we need to do is create our first source. So I'm going to do my microphone. I know you see a microphone here, but I don't use that one. So I'm going to name this mic, add source. And in my microphone, I'm going to choose my microphone effects. I'm not going to monitor it because I don't want to hear myself when I'm streaming. And I don't want it to go to all of the tracks. I just want it to go to my live and my Twitch VOD. Now, how do I get 1 through 6? Because when you first set it up, you don't have 1 through 6. You go to global settings and you're going to see it under audio tracks. You want to check mark these because if you uncheck them, right, you need 1 check marked because that's live. And you want 2 check marked because that goes to your Twitch VOD. But if you want to have all of these, for example, see how when I only did it 1 and 2, it gives me just 1 and 2? You want to check mark all of these if you're wanting to save anything to those tracks. Personally, I don't need them, but if you need them, it'll be there. So we're just gonna continue on the way that it initially sets up. So there's your live and then there's your VOD. Now, if you're streaming multi-streaming, most multi-streaming is gonna just keep the first one, the first track for live. So I don't recommend putting anything with copyright music in there, just a heads up. I don't actually use music on my streams anymore. So they always save to track number 1. And if you're doing a VOD, it'll only save to track number 2. So you would always uncheck it from track number 2. So say, for example, I didn't want desktop audio to go to track number 2. That would not save to my Twitch VOD, but it will save, for example, to my YouTube if I'm multi-streaming to YouTube. It will save to my TikTok if I'm multi-streaming to TikTok, as an example. So, just make sure that you're check marking the right ones. Now that I have my microphone set up, I'm actually going to come in here and I am going to remove the desktop audio and the secondary microphone that was automatic because I don't use that. I like to have control of it. Now this will go to both my horizontal and my vertical. So as you can see, I check mark it, it puts a slash. That means that it won't go there. But if I uncheck it, it will go there. Same thing with your vertical. So just keep that in mind when you're creating these sources. It's not like the Atom vertical plugin in OBS where you have to link it. This is automatic. So you can either take it off of horizontal or keep it on there. I want my microphone to be on both, so we're going to keep that there. The next thing I'm going to do is add another audio source, but this time I'm going to add my game. Now I have all of my game routing through Wavelink, so I'm going to add this. And I'm going to select my game because I have all of my game going through here. Now, if you don't have Wavelink, right? And I'm going to go ahead and mute this for a minute. If you don't have Wavelink and you're adding a capture card, for example, which is a video capture device, and I'm going to name this 4K Pro. I always deactivate when not showing, so that way it turns off my card. So that way it's not having something running in the background as an example. And I am going to actually custom this. Now I have it running at 1080p for a reason. I couldn't capture it in 4K if I want to do 4K 60, but I want to run it at the highest output that I can do. And this should actually give me 120, but it's not. So we're going to fix that here. I don't need to change anything on the video format. I can if I want to, but if we've already looked in advance, it said that it was the NV12, right? I'm just going to leave it as default. I don't need to change that. Color range, I'm sorry, I meant for video format. Color space, I always choose Rec 709. Color range, I leave it default because it's mimicking what I've already set up in the capture card. Buffering, I always disable this. And then there's my capture card, right? So it's set up here in the main one, right? But you don't want to lock it yet because we still have to configure this one. So what I want to do is go to transform. So what I did was right click on the vertical. If I right click here, it does it here. But if I right click here on the vertical area, I can transform this. So I can either center it to screen, I can center vertical, right? But I want to start from here. I'm going to keep that like that for a moment. I'm going to add another source. Oh wait, before I do, let's talk about the audio. So if you're not using Wavelink like I have, and you're just using the capture card audio is going to come here too. And there you go. There's the video, there's the audio. You always want your microphone to be louder than the video. So just make sure that you have your mic all the way up and you have your, depending on how loud your mic gets, like if you're not using any mixer or something routing through your audio, then make sure you're not hurting your people's ears. But make sure that your gain is lower than your actual microphone. So let's go ahead and go to a media file because I want a background for my camera. I'm not going on camera. Background. But I want to add something that loops, right? Because it looks good that way. And now I can right click and I can transform and fit this to screen. And it'll snap in place there, and that's kind of like a guiding tool for me. See how it snapped in? And now I can actually go here, and now I can transform this, and I can put center vertical, right? And then now I can literally just use the arrow buttons and make this go all the way down. Well, it would be nice if it told me it was going all the way to 0. It's really hard with this kind of format because you don't know where you're actually hitting the end. See? Like, I don't know how far down I'm going. I think that looks good, but I might have a black bar in the middle here, right? So we want to make sure we're not doing that either. But we want to make sure we don't have any black line here. So it's really hard to gauge that when it comes to the guide. So it would be nice to see like something saying 0 all the way down here so you know that you're there. But if we look, right, it looks like I hit a black line. So there's that. And again, I can maybe center it once more. So it counts it, but like it stops at a certain level. See where it stops at like 176? You kind of have to gauge it. I think that's it, right? Now that I have it the way that I don't want this here, right? But I don't want to delete the source. So what I do is I check it, right? And you see the slash on the desktop versus the vertical, right? And then I can lock it in place. So I know it will be here, but not here, if that makes sense. I know it looks itty bitty, but I promise you I'm doing this because I'm also making a vertical video. But the reason why I'm showing you this is so that way you have an idea of how to set these things up in Streamlabs, because I thought it was really cool. Now, I don't have any audio on this backdrop here, right? So I can actually go and hide this from my audio mixer because I don't need it. If I had my 4K Capture Utility app open, I could actually, as a matter of fact, let's do that. I can show you what I'm talking about. Right, so you see how the audio is coming through game? Because I have my 4K Capture Utility app routing through game, I can actually mute this. And then now you can see that the game is still going with the audio, right? I know y'all see the game in the background. It's pretty cool. But this is pretty much how I'm setting up Streamlabs. And that's pretty much any broadcasting software, right? You still have to go in and configure your sources. But with all of this right here, and then if I were to add my camera, which I'm not going to do, there is a template that I think Nutty has out that lets you put your vertical where it needs to be. So that way you have enough headroom here on a camera. For example, if I didn't want to show my bedroom or my office or, you know, whatever room I'm streaming from, and I wanted to have just my green screen here, I would basically be right on top of this and then have my game here, although it doesn't look completely flush here. So, and I'm a stickler for this, so hold on. Much better. Okay. It's set. Sorry, that was bothering me. I saw a little line there and it's like, it doesn't look exact. But you can see that the audio is routing through here under game because that's where my wavelength is, right? But if I didn't have this, if I didn't have 4K Capture Utility open, I would have to enable the audio here. So just keep that in mind depending on how you're routing your audio, if you're routing audio. Anyways, I hope this helps you when it comes to setting up Streamlabs. I hope this helps you when it comes to understanding vertical and how to make sure you have one showing in vertical or your desktop, depending on if you're clicking on showing in horizontal or clicking on hide or show in vertical or show in vertical or hide in vertical, right? So, or horizontal. So it just depends on how you're configuring all of that. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, I was trying to keep the video short and just give you kind of a rundown of how to set it up in the most basic way. And again, when you're doing like anything with the outputs, just keep in mind that it only gives you 2 destinations that you can stream to free. And then if you want to do multi-streaming, you will have to get Ultra, and that would be $27 again a month, US dollars. I hope this helps everybody who has been wanting to have a tutorial on Streamlabs, and thank you for watching.